But look, this is a surprise to me because the words that I used early in the season when they were 10-1, I said this team was resilient, and also this team knew how to win. Well, it seems like they've forgotten how to win, and they are the opposite of resilient right now. They are just not bouncing back.
You know, ever since, 4 or 5 weeks ago when we clinched the playoffs, you know, I think everybody's just been waiting for the playoffs. So not something that, you know, is a great thing, but I think everybody's going to be ready to go, and I think we're going to, you know, show the world what we're capable of.
Hey, it's Matt Rogers, of course, on the Audible Mention podcast. Today, I have Tom Kelly from SportsRadio WIP out in Philadelphia, flagship station of the Philadelphia Phillies and the Eagles. And I was telling Tom off air, this is, you know, just honestly one of the, if it ends like this is one of the all-time choke jobs, maybe in Philadelphia sports history.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, Matt. It's unbelievable that a month ago they were 10-1. I mean, they had their issues, but didn't look like a team that was going to fall off like this. And then, you know, you had that Niners game and the Cowboys game back-to-back, and it feels like that honestly broke something in this team. Like, they haven't been the same since. Now, all of a sudden, their defense is terrible. They're unable to stop bad offenses. They're unable to stop bad quarterbacks, and offensively, you know, things look awful right now, and the coaches don't seem to have any answers. And that's the most concerning part to me, is that the coaching just does not seem to be helping the players right now. I think the players, you know, want this thing to turn around. I think they're trying, but I think right now the coaching staff is really letting them down in a significant way on both sides of the ball.
I got to give Sirianni credit. After, you know, Jalen Hurts gets hurt, A.J. Brown gets hurt, there does take a little wisdom to know that it is time to pull those starters instead of going full bore down 24-0, and then you really end the season, and this week is a Marcus Mariota formality or something like that. And the silver lining of it all is that most likely they will have Jalen Hurts and probably A.J. Brown.
Yeah, I mean, most likely they'll have them, but at this point, I mean, even if they go into this game with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts all playing, I mean, there's no way I can have confidence in this team going to Tampa and winning. And I know Tampa's not very good. I mean, they struggled to beat Carolina last week. Carolina is the worst team in football. But the Eagles aren't doing anything well right now. And,
no.
You know, I was disappointed in that game last week. Not just that they lost. I think we knew that, okay, Dallas starts to pull away. They'll start to pull some of their guys out. But the Eagles are getting beat 24-0 when that game was competitive.
That's right.
Like, that game in Washington rather was competitive when the Eagles were getting blown out. And to me, like, that's the most concerning thing is every week we're just hoping to see something that makes us feel better about the team. And we have not seen that in the last month of the season.
And the stubbornness of the coach, you know, I love what the players, A.J. Brown in particular, came out and said last week was like, you know, it's on us, and it's really about we have to play better. We have to be better with our techniques. But if you come out on the first snap of the game and Hassan Reddick is dropping into coverage, that sends a message to the team. And there's no way around that. I mean, there's no Hassan Reddick needs to be better at covering the, you know, the out route. I mean, that's why are we having this conversation?
Well, it's nonsensical. And I was in the camp of, I was okay with moving to Matt Patricia. I didn't think Sean Desai was doing a very good job. And I still don't, but you know, it's gotten worse. It's gotten worse with Matt Patricia being the defensive coordinator. He's basically calling plays for a defense that's not his, which doesn't make any sense. And as far as what A.J. Brown said, I think he was trying to say the right things. I don't think he, you know, completely meant everything that he said. I don't think that, you know, he really believes in the coaching staff because, okay, you can say you believe in the coaching staff, and that's great. But he also said at the end of the Seattle game, he and Jalen Hurts decided they were going to run their own play in the last 10 seconds. And if you're doing that, like, you don't really trust your coaching staff. Like, you don't really respect the coaches if you're going to go rogue on one of the final plays of the game and not do what they're asking you to do. And to me, and again, I'm not in the locker room. This is all speculation on my part, but they look like a team to me where the players have kind of lost faith in the coaches and they've lost faith in what they're telling them. I think it's an important distinction because I think it's different than the end of 2015 with Chip Kelly. I think that team didn't like Chip. They quit on Chip. That's not the way I feel about this situation. I think they like Nick Sirianni, and I think they really want this thing to work out. But deep down, I just think when you look at the X's and O's and you look at the fact they still can't find a way to beat a blitz, they still can't find these easy adjustments that shouldn't be that complicated for coaches in the NFL to come up with. I think even though they like the coach and the coaching staff as a whole, I don't think they have the confidence that those coaches are putting them in the best position to succeed.
Absolutely. DeAndre Swift ended the season 5th in rushing. He had 1049, which is just a crazy commentary on where the league is in terms of running the football right now. But he did end the league and 5th in the league in rushing. Chances we know the Eagles' history. So with all that taken into account, on a scale of 1 to 10, how high are the chances that DeAndre Swift is back in the Midnight Green next year?
I would say doubtful, to be honest with you. I don't think the Eagles are going to change the way they view that position. And I mean, they're very, I guess, consistent in the way they view certain positions. Now, I do think what's happened defensively could lead the Eagles to reevaluate maybe the linebacker position, maybe the safety position, investing more resources there. I just don't think it's going to happen at running back. I think Swift is going to get a decent contract from somewhere. And, with the other needs they have, I don't think the Eagles are going to be in a position where they're able to invest significant resources in running back.
I would have to say so as well. It's a nice story. He's played well. I think he hasn't been given the number of opportunities that most people who like the same team as I do would say that he should have gotten this season. But he clearly better than Miles Sanders. I guess from Howie's perspective, he's like, hey, look what I did. I brought DeAndre Swift in here. So he'll try to do it again next year. And I agree with you on that.
Yeah. And I think that's the way they view the position is just, they can keep cycling through guys and if they get one guy that hits every year, they'll take it. And honestly, I don't think that's the wrong way to view it. Now, I think there are some situations where they do need to adjust the way they view certain positions, but running back, I think that's probably the right way to go about it in today's NFL.
Quez Watkins had a great Week 18 game. He caught his first touchdown of the season, and at a certain point when it became a meaningless Week 18 game. But he did look like he caught the ball a few times, held on to it. Is this his last game in Midnight Green as well?
I hope so. Quez Watkins, I don't think is very good. I think his lack of ability to fight for balls is very frustrating. And he just doesn't seem to have very good awareness as a receiver, whether it's running deep routes, not drawing flags, not working back through contact is a problem. And he made that touchdown catch on Sunday, had a nice game on Sunday, but he would, if I was Howie Roseman, he wouldn't be a part of the Eagles' future. I wouldn't have any interest in bringing him back.
There are guys, yes, absolutely. I think his and maybe he'll prove everybody wrong this week. So that's why sports is fun, because people always have the pen in their hand. They're still able to write their story as long as they got a jersey on. But he has an idiosyncratic inability to fight for the football. I mean, I think Jalen in so many times has put the ball in his neighborhood, only in his neighborhood, and it just doesn't come down with it. The ball hits the ground. It goes between his hands. It's really bad. And I think at this point, you can tell in the way that they're calling the plays that even this coaching staff is done.
Yeah. I think, it's just one of those things where, Quez Watkins just hasn't really improved over the course of those years. And I think it's probably time to move on.
These are a couple more unfortunate ones, but the conversation has to be had. Is this Brandon Graham's last game in Midnight Green?
I think probably it's unfortunate because Brandon Graham's obviously a legendary Eagle, one of my favorite Eagles of all time, but he's just kind of tailed off this season. He had a really good game against Dallas. The first game against Dallas had a big sack toward the end of that game. But the contribution just hasn't really been there this year. I don't know if he's going to retire, but I think in general, the Eagles will look to move on from some of those older guys.
Kelsey
Yeah,
will move on us.
I think he probably retires. The last couple of years I've expected Kelsey to return. But that's the tough part of this season I think coming out of last year, Kelsey thought, okay, this team's got a decent chance to go back to the Super Bowl. After this season, I just don't think that pathway is really there. And if you're Jason Kelsey and you're not expecting your team to win the Super Bowl next year, I don't think there's the incentive enough for him to come back and put his body through that for another season.
So it sounds like you're giving the edge in this one to Tampa Bay.
Yes. Yeah. Matt, I hate to look at it this way. I just have no faith in this team. Like, I've totally lost faith in this team. The last 2 weeks, they have played two of the 5 worst teams in football. And I mean, they got their asses kicked. That's essentially what happened. I mean, you gave up 35 points to Arizona. You didn't force a punt all day. You gave up 24 points to the Giants in the first half with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback. I think this defense is cooked. The offense doesn't look much better. They're banged up. And I honestly, I was stunned to see that the Eagles are favorites this week. I don't understand it. And hey, maybe they can win a game. I don't see it going beyond that regardless. But yeah, I mean, there's no way I can, in good faith, pick the Eagles to win this game even against Tampa Bay.
And this is still early in the week, and maybe listen later or follow me on places, and maybe I have a different point of view. But right now, I agree with you, Tom. I'm seeing this. It's hard to get it out of my head. 27-17 Bucks at home.
And I haven't gotten that far enough along for a score or anything yet, but I'm definitely picking the Bucks in this game. I just don't know how you can pick the Eagles after what we've seen over the last 6 weeks. It's crazy we've gotten here to where we're picking against them, against the team that they should be. They're more talented than the team that they've
been more talented than every team they played since the 49ers.
Right.
I still think pound for pound, they're a better team than the Cowboys.
And a Bucks team that they dominated early on this year, but it just shows how much they've regressed. Different team. And for a team to regress that much, I see it as a complete indictment on the coaching staff more than anything else.
Let's get over to a little bit of the other action. You've got Miami going to Kansas City. What do you think about that one?
Miami, they're such a weird team. They have looked really good at times, really explosive offensively. I really like their coach, Mike McDaniel. I just think in the end, I don't think Tua is very good. He pretty much gave that game away last week against Buffalo, making mistakes, not able to push the ball down the field. They're going to presumably get Jalen Waddle back this week. They didn't have him last week, so I think that does factor in. Hey, the Chiefs haven't looked very good either this year, but I would expect the Chiefs to win a relatively low-scoring game, especially considering the weather going to be really cold. I think that plays more into Kansas City's favor.
The Chiefs have a championship defense this year for sure. They've had it all season, even through the storms. They've been playing good ball on that side of the football. Yeah, the other side where they can't catch the ball, it's been on the Patrick Mahomes side of the football for the Chiefs that has been worrisome.
Yeah, their receivers are so bad. I mean, they got Kelsey and Kelsey's doing his normal thing, but their receivers are really bad, and they got to find a way to add to that receiving core in this offseason for sure if they're going to correct their issues on the offensive side.
Stafford goes back to Detroit. I think Stafford goes back and beats them, but what about you?
Yeah, I think so too. And to me, that's the game of the week. I can't wait for that game Sunday night. I would agree. I think the Rams go in there and win that game, but it's going to be a fascinating matchup. Not just Stafford, but look at the other side too. I mean, Jared Goff going up against the team that traded him, and And I think Jared Goff is honestly better than he gets credit for. I think he was kind of scapegoated when the Rams traded him. Now it worked out. I mean, Stafford won them a Super Bowl, and Stafford's a better quarterback. But I think they both had really good years. I would lean toward the Rams, but I can't wait to watch that game. To me, that's by far the most interesting matchup this weekend.
Absolutely. Yeah, I literally laughed out loud when I saw that the Eagles were favored in this one. So let's say I was going to say defy the odds, but when I had to think back to when I saw the odds have the Eagles winning the game. But let's say they defy logic, and all of the Philadelphia fans who've now watched this team stink for the last, since Thanksgiving, say they go and do that. They go in the Raymond James Stadium. They beat the Bucs. Is there any realm of possibility then that they can get themselves worked up to beat? Because if Detroit beats LA, then Philly would go to Dallas instead of going to to Santa Clara.
Yeah, I think so. So could the Eagles beat the Cowboys? I mean, I don't think so. I don't believe it's going to happen now. Crazier things have happened, but I just look at, and I'm not crazy about the Cowboys. I think Mike McCarthy's not a very good coach, but I just think the Cowboys are a much better team right now. And I don't see any way, even if the Eagles offense could perform and put up points, the Eagles aren't stopping that offense. Like, it's just not happening. And I wish I could be more positive. I wish I could have more faith, but I mean, after the last few weeks, I don't think this team has any answers, and I don't think that they're getting it turned around.
I know my Eagles fans. I know y'all upset. I think they're going to fix it. I think the Eagles players, I think they playing possum. I know what they're doing. They're allowing their bodies to reset. They're allowing their minds to mentally reset. And watch what happens come playoff time. Watch what happens next week. Watch what I tell you. I tell you no lie. I lie for you before I lie to you. Watch what them boys do. I know it. I'm familiar with their game. I know what they're doing.
I know that they want to talk about, and Brandon Graham was on WIP this morning talking about, we're the underdogs again. And I think that's them just trying to cling to anything. I don't, first off, I don't think they actually really believe it. And secondly, it's just a different situation. Like, they're not a good football team right now. And I think anybody who's on the side of this team's going to go on a magical run, I think I get it. Like, you're a fan, but it's hopium. It's not reality. If you've watched this team, it's just not.
No, I mean, at a basic level, the Eagles are getting cooked just on basic stuff. I mean, the pitch play in the red zone from Tyrod to Saquon was the most predictable play once they lined up in that formation. And just at a basic level, the guys, I do appreciate some of what was being said last week when they say it's on some of us, on all of us. The coaches are putting them in bad situations, but at a basic level, I'm just not seeing the Eagles players like playing smart football. Like on the chunk play that the Cardinals hit after the 2-minute warning against the Eagles when they were coming back. In my eyes, you just let the guy score there because I think we only had one timeout at that point, or no timeouts.
Yeah, and I think like that was tough because I get players on the field in the midst of a play like that, not really, thinking to let a guy score. But yeah, I was thinking the same thing. And that's the thing. Like, your defense isn't going to get any stops. So you're just going to need to outscore them. Yeah. And if that's
push them in, push them in.
If that's happening against Arizona and the Giants, I really get like maybe they can hold up this week, but I mean, if you got to go to Dallas or if you got to go to Detroit or in San Francisco, I mean, I just don't see any way that the defense is holding up against those offenses.
The Eagles have still have the third shortest odds, which is just fascinating. I think maybe folks aren't actually watching the game, and I think that the Eagles are getting some credit for their championship medal. But if you've listened to this episode so far, neither Tom nor I are really seeing it. It's unfortunate to say, but they're going to fall. It looks like they're going to fall short. It's interesting, totally interesting that the Eagles and the Phillies kind of have gone into the playoffs on, over the last year in the same kind of position. Phillies kind of like the 5 seed, and it's just a totally different vibe.
Yeah, it's a completely different scenario. You look at the Phillies, they were going into the playoffs and they were playing well. Like, they were playing good baseball overall. And that season unfortunately ended the way it did, but I can't remember a time that a team just went into the postseason playing this poorly. And I don't know what happened over the last month. I don't know how it fell apart to this degree, because like I said earlier, yeah, I mean, they were 10-1 and they had issues and a lot of people were complaining about it. I was kind of on the side of, hey, they're 10-1, everything is fine. But,
right. Mm-hmm.
And I still don't think that was a crazy opinion to have. Something happened over the last month to make things a whole lot worse. And I don't know exactly what it is. I don't know if it is something going on within that locker room, but it strikes me as more than just a talent issue when you just go from being one of the best teams in football to one of the worst teams. And maybe we'll get more clarity on exactly what's going on and what happened here at the end of the season. But I've honestly never seen anything like this. I can't recall ever seeing a drop-off to this degree before.
And they got tough wins. I mean, they already beat the Cowboys, the Cowboys team that most people would say are going to the NFC Championship right now. So you beat them and hung in that Niners game for a significant portion. At a certain point, the Niners just blew the doors off them, and we haven't seen that Eagles team since.
No. And I mean, they beat Dallas, they beat Buffalo in that great game. And Buffalo, I mean, you look at two teams that have just gone the complete opposite way since that game. Buffalo's won 5 in a row. They're the 2 seed. At that point, it looked like they weren't going to make the playoffs. And the Eagles kind of go on limping in. So, yeah, I don't know what happened since that game, but man, things have really gone the wrong direction.
I'm sure you'll get into this. The guys will probably ask you about it. When can we listen to you talking about the Birds for the rest of this week?
Yeah, I'll be on Tuesday night from 6 to 10 with the King, Howard Eskin, for an hour from 6 to 7. Then with Ashlyn Sullivan from 7 to 10. So that'll be fun. I'm on Wednesday night, 10 to 2. And then I'm back solo 6 to 10 on Friday night. So I'll be on 3 days this week leading up to the game. And then Monday night, I will have the halftime show during the game. And I'll be on overnight after the playoff game that night. So a lot coming up here as we hopefully head toward another week of Eagles football next week. But we'll see.
We'll see if that path becomes any clearer. Thank you all so much for listening. If you liked what you heard, go ahead and give Tom a follow over on, he still uses the X machine. I think it's Tommy Kelly 44, right?
That's correct. Thanks, Matt.
Absolutely. And listen to him on the Odyssey app. Also leave a subscribe and a like wherever you can. Thank you so much for listening. Take care.
I want to make those splash plays. I want to get more turnovers and things like that, but it just hasn't happened yet. But what better time to start making those plays and executing on those things, in the playoffs. So I've been in the playoffs. Anything can happen. I was a wild card team some years ago with Tennessee. We made it off to the AFC Championship game. Was a couple plays away from going to the Super Bowl. So I have full confidence that we can make a run for sure.